The Robitussin Test. Robitussin Test. What is the Robitussin Test? Uh, Robitussin was my drug of choice. A drug I use recreationally. Robitussin is, of course, cough syrup, right? It's a brand name of cough syrup. The actual chemical is dextromethorphan hydrobromide. Uh, Not guaifenesin, not whatever other uh, cough syrup ingredients are. There are a multitude. Or at least there have been, I should say. Cough syrup companies seem to be narrowing down their options. I'm having a beer at the moment and cough syrup. Uh, in a way, this is part of my Robitussin test because 20 years ago, if I had taken Robitussin, I would not be anywhere near a video camera. But this is in looking for like evidence of being trans. This is the Robitussin test is part of that. So that's what I'm getting towards here. Uh, how shall I put this? It's not really a test. I mean, it wasn't like uh, something that I've standardized or anything like that. It was more that I had a theory, and I'm testing my theory. so so say I'm 48. So at 20, around the age of 20, was when my use of Robitussin was around its highest. Right. This is when I was using it recreationally, maybe 3 days a week at the most. Usually I didn't do it more than that just because it made me, drinking that much Robitussin will make you feel like shit. If you drink it every day, if you drink it once and say per month, you can drink an entire bottle and, you'll have a trip and then come down and, 2 days later you feel fine. But if you were to drink an entire bottle every day, say for like a week straight, you would probably end up in the hospital in a couple weeks. So, like 3 days in a row was like the most I ever did it. But I did use it recreationally. I started using it when I was in college at 18 years old. And this was, when I went to college, was a time of self-discovery. And part of that was through the drug use. The first time I ever got drunk, that was an introduction to to a part of me that I didn't know was there. I'll put it that way. And that is kind of the theme. Is this pretty much ever since then? Pretty much ever since that first experience of getting drunk and hearing some of the stories of things that I did, or even just mostly from the first night, it was mostly hearing about what I did. Such as putting a cigarette out on the back of a girl's hand, talking to a girl for 2 hours when I didn't talk to girls at all in high school. Things like that. Things that when I heard it, I was like, I can't believe I did that, So that was my introduction to a suppressed part of me, you might say, a part of me that was hidden from my own self. Right. So this idea of there are things, I have this self, and then there are things hidden from my own self. Right. They're almost in a way like I'm like an iceberg, right, in my own self. right? I only see like the tip of the iceberg, and there's, well, I call it an iceberg, assuming that there's more to me than, much more to me than I'm aware of, but it's, I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm not seeing. I don't know what I don't know. So, but I felt like I was starting to get to know myself with the drugs. Of course, at some point, I would say it was just a way of having fun. It wasn't really self-exploration. I know a lot of people in a lot of contexts use drugs as for that purpose. And a lot of people are using DMT, LSD, ecstasy, which is MDMA. Drugs like that people use to try to find these hidden treasures within themselves. So in a way, that's what Robitussin was for me. It was partly just a way to escape. Right? It was very much like alcohol in that way. It was like, my life sucks and I want to enjoy it, so, let me go get fucked up. But I did feel a little bit like I was finding myself. A little bit. I wouldn't say that I found myself, but I was finding myself, it seemed like, and that kind of came to a halt. When I was 22, and I started dating a woman who was like 18 years old. I liked the woman. I was attracted to her. I thought she was attractive, She was voluptuous. She had long, blondish hair, dirty blonde hair. It was a very delightful person to be around, very nice. I enjoyed her company, but I didn't. Being her boyfriend probably wasn't the right thing for that relationship, or us being in any kind of like monogamous sexual relationship probably wasn't the best. Because almost as soon as I started dating her, the trips that I had on Robitussin kind of withered, or like, one of the things that I used to do when I was tripping was I would draw on a notebook. I had a little sketchbook that I would keep with me for such occasions, and I would just go. I would probably filled like 8 or 9 notebooks, composition books, and it wasn't like I filled every page completely. I wasn't like writing essays. It was a lot of times it was just doodles, short poems, maybe a sentence long, 2 sentences long, something like that on one page. But whatever it was, I felt like that's it for this page. That poem is it. I don't want to put anything else on this page because that poem owns this page. I don't know how else to put it. So that was kind of how it went. But I've filled up like 8 or 9 notebooks like that. And when I started dating her, it was all I did was scribble. I sat down with these notebooks and nothing was coming to my mind. It was just like scribble. And and I'm thinking, what is the issue, right? There seems to be a change now that she and I are together, right? And I was aware of the fact, I shouldn't call it a fact, but I was aware of my own anxiety. I was aware of my own insecurities about being a boyfriend, partly because of the questioning my sexuality. Already at that time I was questioning my sexuality. I'd just come back from college, not too long before that. And in college was the first time I'd ever experienced being attracted to a man. And So I was still questioning that, but also still dealing with the shame of that and feeling like that makes me not a real man and that sort of thing. And so when I started dating her, there was part of this like we shouldn't be together in this kind of relationship. Part of that was just from the insecurity of being a boyfriend. Uh, Feeling like I'm not a real man because I have this attraction for men, or at least for a man. At that point, it had only been one man. What else was I going to say there? So part of it was just that kind of shame of the sexual confusion, but the other part of it was just feeling like I don't want to be a boyfriend, right? I don't want to. That wasn't really what I wanted here. What I really wanted was just a companion. Now, at that time, that's not how I saw it. At that time, all I heard was I'm insecure. I'm afraid. My mother abandoned me when I was young. I'm afraid of being abandoned again. Whatever else. Of course, I shouldn't say that was the only thing that I heard, because the other there I was still going through that confusion. Am I gay? Am I straight? I remember sitting with people at a party while I was dating this girl, and one of them like asked me that question, like, "Are you gay? Or are you straight?" Something like that, and I just remember saying something like, "I'm bisexual," or I'm just attracted to people," something like that. But yeah, the trips ceased being the kind of enjoyable. I'm just having fun kind of things, and they became more. They didn't become a bad experience. They just kind of ceased being an experience in a way. It's almost like I just stopped tripping. The whole thing of just kind of getting into a space where I was fluid and I don't know what else to call it, uninhibited or whatever, that just ceased. And I didn't stop using the Robitussin. I dated her for 4 years, and then I joined the army. And it was partly because of my life had become like this turd going down a toilet. I was in the downward spiral. And while I was dating her, I remember thinking that I'm not going to live to be 35 years old. I'm either going to die from suicide or drug overdose. And at one point, I just felt like I need to get out of this situation. I feel like it wasn't just that I need to get out of the situation, but I need something to latch onto. I felt like I was drowning in a way, and I need something to hold on to. I need something sturdy and structured, right? Because it was like my life was falling apart. That's what it felt like. And while I dated her, she and I were doing drugs together on a regular basis. So even if it wasn't Robitussin, it was something else. So that was. I've tried many drugs, and I tried almost all of them while I was dating her, except for the Robitussin and the pot and alcohol. I tried those when I was in college before I met her. So, but then I joined the army, feeling like I needed some kind of structure in my life, discipline, something that I could kind of just almost in a way hand my life over to somebody else and say, please fix me, set me on the right path, that sort of thing. So it wasn't just that. It was also September 11th had just happened, and I thought I'd go fight terrorism, that sort of thing. And So I joined the Robitussin, and just drug use in general didn't come to a screeching halt, but it, slowed down quite extensively. Uh, but then once I got into the army, it was a very similar situation as far as like if I were to do Robitussin. I was in an environment where I felt like this isn't the place for me to be myself, right? This is not the place for me to express myself. This is not the place for me to let go. And because this was something that I had kind of come to realize with the trips early on, was that in order to trip, I have to be able to let go. I can't. It's almost like if the trip is telling me to go in this direction, I can't be saying, no, 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 I'm not going in that direction. You know, it was like that. I say that because that no, 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 no voice, or response that I'm giving to the trip itself, or whatever you want to call it, was what I felt when I was dating the girl, and then again when I was in the army, right? The army was a fairly painful experience throughout. The pain of trying to fit in a place where I felt like I could not, in a place where I felt like I have this inner stuff that if I reveal it, it's going to be a problem, right? Maybe not getting kicked out of the army problem, but maybe just being ridiculed, socially rejected, that sort of thing. So, of course, I ended up being ridiculed anyways. And I was in this kind of constant, like, how do I fit in here? I want to be accepted by these people, which was very similar to being in that relationship with the girl. There was I had this similar sort of like I have to fit into this kind of this image of being a boyfriend. But there was, you might say that the Robitussin trip was pulling me in the opposite direction. It was kind of saying, be free. Don't be attached to this. Don't be trying to fit into this role. And but in both environments, it was like the trip just was subdued. It was, in some cases, I didn't trip at all, right? So there were other aspects though to the trips, because they weren't just these great like awakening experiences when I did have them, right? They were often like even like some of the best trips I had were ones when I was by myself. And very often I tended to withdraw when I was on Robitussin. I became more antisocial, not more social. And so I remember once going to a friend's house. He and I were both on Robitussin, and we went to his house, and we got out of his car, and his mother was like standing at the front door. And I was like, oh shit, I can't let her see me. And so I just got out and just walked up the road instead of going to his house. And I imagine that his mother was like, what in the fuck just happened? So, I'm sure he was probably thinking the same thing. But during that time, like I said, I wouldn't have wanted the camera on me at all, right? And it wasn't. There was consciously I was thinking, I don't want her to see that I'm like tripping, that I'm on Robitussin. I don't know why. I'd never met her once before in my life. The friend of mine was just, somebody that I worked with, who we both played guitar and we both liked Robitussin, and we used to, drink Robitussin and play guitar together. So I'm not sure why I would be afraid for her to see that. But when I look back at that, I think it wasn't that I didn't want her to see that I was on Robitussin. It's that same sort of, there's something inside me that I don't want people to see. And when I'm on Robitussin, I feel like it becomes harder to hide it. I'll put it that way. Or it feels like hiding it is more of an effort, because the Robitussin is almost like a force. It's like saying, it's like a river saying, "Come with me," you know. And it becomes harder to say no, right? Once you're kind of in it. So this is one of the reasons why I never did it with my family. You know, I'll drink alcohol with my family, but I never did Robitussin around my own family. And it was just, there's kind of this like, I don't know what's going to come out, and I don't I don't know if I want to be there when it does. So, but as I started going through the gender thing, and I started to realize the gender exploration and trying on women's clothing, wearing makeup, taking hormones, so that you can see I have boobs. They're still quasi boobs. I still have a bit of like the man pec up here, but at a certain angle, it looks like I have breasts. And looking back at those situations with the girlfriend, with the army, my battery is running low. It started to kind of, the picture started to become, or that started to appear was that what I was hiding was this inner feminine stuff, self stuff. I don't know what you want to call it. That I had feminine traits, qualities, desires that I was hiding. And I started to remember things like when I told my girlfriend then that I wanted to try having sex with men, and she said, "Not with me." You know, basically saying that if I wanted to have sex with men, I had to break up with her. You know, I started to feel like that's not, you know, this isn't the relationship that I want. Basically, what I wanted was a companion, someone who could walk the path with me as I discovered myself. I don't want to be in a relationship that is preventing me from discovering myself. And so yeah, I started to think that you know, once I started down this path, that I wonder what would happen now if I took the Robitussin again, because I did stop for a while. In the army, I got to the point, like I said, where it was just like I wasn't really tripping at all, and I think it was when I first started trying cross-dressing. It was when I started trying Robitussin again, after having not used it for several years, I think. I could be wrong about that. But just making this video, I feel a little bit like I'm coming out of the closet. So this is a Dollar Tree bottle. You can buy a bottle of cough syrup pills at Dollar Tree for $1.25, but it's a small amount. So I haven't done the math. I don't know if how many bottles equals a 4-ounce liquid bottle of Robitussin. I don't know. It is the same ingredient, though. I do know that. I almost feel like I should put on some music. Let's see here. I'm gonna have to plug in my phone before my battery dies while I'm in the middle of recording. That would be a tragedy. Okay. I know, I just plugged in my phone. I plugged in the charger, and then my phone tells me that my battery's getting low. So. Where was I? Do I think that I should be using Robitussin? I think it's probably a good idea that I stop at some point. I don't like the idea of using it forever. Hopefully, like when I'm 70 years old, I'm not still using it. You know, I'm 48 now, so I've been using it for over 20 years. Not every day, like I said, but there were a few years when I went without it. There were 2 years at least recently, like when I went to Atlanta from 2016 to 2020. Or 2 of those years I was completely sober. If that makes me look better in your eyes. So yeah, the Robitussin test is not a standardized test. But there were things that I noticed like through the Robitussin. One is like that I tend to hide, right? I tend to not want to be around people when I do it. If I am doing it, I want to be around people who, if I do want to be around people, I want to be around people who are doing it also. I've heard from people who do LSD that it's like that with LSD, that if you're on LSD, you want to be around other people who are on LSD too, and not around people who aren't. So I don't. Maybe that was, for me, it wasn't. I took LSD twice, and it was somewhat like that, but not quite the same for me. If I had been around a sober person on LSD, I don't think I would have minded it as much as I would being on Robitussin. Where was I going? The test. But yeah, so I noticed just things like that I like to hide. That I remember a friend of mine talking about recording us once. I lived with a guy and a girl in my early 20s in a trailer park, and we used to do Robitussin a lot, the 3 of us. And I remember once the guy talking about recording us, like with a tape recorder or video camera or something like that, and I just remember thinking, fuck no. You know, I think that's what I said. I think I said something like that. You know, I said I'd rather leave, or I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was almost like a fear of death, and on the subject of the whole, like, the current, the river wanting to carry me off, that was something that I noticed early on, was that feeling that there is this river. I actually had a vision of that once. That was one of the visions that I had, was there's this river. I call it the knot in the wood vision, where I'm seeing myself, and what I see is a knot in wood. So when I say a knot, I don't mean like a tree that's been twisted into a knot. I mean where the spot where the branch is, like when you cut a board You know, that's the dark round spot, right where the branch was. Uh, this is what I see, and so there's this river flowing around me, like the grains in the wood go around the knot, and the river is life. I don't know what else to call it, right? Life is saying, let go. There's somewhere I want to take you. And I'm like, no, 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 I can't, you know? And in that vision, I had this sense that there's something that I'm holding on to for dear life. Something that I absolutely refuse to let go of. And that was in my early 20s when I had that vision. And when I had it, I thought it has to be related to gender, because this is, even then in my early 20s, I felt like this was the one thing where I was the most uncomfortable, right? I was uncomfortable, like, being a boyfriend. I was unsure about my sexuality. I was even just kind of like being around other men, or being in like the locker room kind of environment. I just never felt at home, or like this is where I want to be. I should say it that way, because I don't know that most men want to be in the locker room, but so maybe they do. Maybe there's a, maybe in every man is a suppressed desire to be in the locker room with a bunch of men naked. I don't know. I say that because I had a locker room dream once, and the dream was telling me something along those lines. Right? The dream was me walking through a locker room that was like a never-ending thing, kind of like a labyrinth of locker rooms. Like I go through one door and it leads to another locker room. I go and it has a door and it leads to another locker room, and I'm like, this thing never ends. But then I see like a bird's eye view of it, and it's like a labyrinth, right? And the dream was kind of telling me, I say kind of because I don't want to I don't want to sound like I'm an authority on this subject or anything, but that this is kind of something in the psyche of all men, that there's this kind of desire to be in the locker room. Where men get naked. It's about time for some lights. But the test for me was to go out in public while on Robitussin, and to see what happens. So I had to go do laundry today, and I had to find something to wear that I didn't need to wash. So this was the outfit, the shirt, and I don't know if you need to see the pants, but these are like some women's, like, I don't know, I call them beach pants. So I wore this to the laundromat. I did not wear the makeup, but I wore this, and part of it was the flowers. Like, it's obviously a woman's, it's kind of a feminine top, but it also shows off my breasts. Like, I mean, it's tight. That's what I'm getting at. So I felt like I was somewhat exposed, you might say. I felt like I wasn't hiding. And so with that in mind, I thought, this could be a good opportunity for the Robitussin test, right? To see if exposing this part of myself while on Robitussin has any effect on how I experience the trip or the Robitussin itself. I don't even want to call it a trip because I took the Robitussin probably an hour ago, and I'm not tripping, but like I said, this is a small amount. This is the Dollar Tree bottles, so I'm not gonna get starting the splitting hairs about what is a trip and what isn't a trip, but the experience itself has been a little bit elucidating, right? Because I did start to go through those, like, wanting to run, wanting to hide sorts of things, and I noticed that when I saw myself as a woman, I didn't feel that way. And there were times when I pictured myself in my head as a woman sitting there, and I had this kind of like, I'm like an alpha. I don't need to be afraid of anybody, right? I'm the one who's in charge here. Kind of, I don't need to run or hide from anybody, right? So there's that. So it wasn't like I started having visions or anything like that. I wouldn't say that I had a trip while I was there at the gas station. Sorry, not gas station. Laundromat. I did stop at the gas station too. I'm not rearing to go out in public again right this minute. The fact that I'm making a video, I think, is telling. So I'm not tripping, but I do feel the Robitussin enough that in other circumstances I might be like, no, it's time to go on YouTube and start watching videos and hide in my cave for the rest of the evening. I'm still taking more. This is my third bottle. That is 45 gel cap pills. It's 15 in each bottle. Do I feel like a winner making this video? No. Do I feel like a little bit like I'm coming out of the closet? Yes. It is one of the bad things about, or I wouldn't say the bad things. One of the reasons I felt the need to hide in the past was just that, not wanting people to know that I was on Robitussin. Right? I don't know why. I don't know what it was about Robitussin. I don't know if it's just that it's not cool. Cool. It's not cool. Why am I doing that? You know, I didn't have that problem with alcohol. I didn't smoke enough weed to really have that experience. I don't know why I put it that way, but I have a theory as to why I put it that way. But somehow I've been labeled as a stoner by my family. I'm going to say somehow. The label makes sense if stoner means someone who uses Robitussin with alcohol. If it means someone who smokes weed, the label doesn't make sense. But weed was never my drug of choice. There were drugs that made me social. Cocaine made me social. Ecstasy made me social. If I had ecstasy, I don't think I would ever do it by myself. Uh, Maybe I would. I think it could be a good experience, but usually when I'm on ecstasy, that's when I am the most social that I've ever been. But Robitussin, for whatever reason, made me antisocial, withdrawn, uh, that sort of thing. People might think, well, why would you take it? If it makes you want to hide and that sort of thing. I would say it was just the trips themselves. In a way, it is almost like having a dream, right? Like some of the visions that I had were like dreams. Filling up the notebooks, that sort of thing. I felt like, in some ways, I felt like the notebooks were almost like a therapist. My time with the notebooks, tripping on Robitussin, was in some ways therapeutic. I mean, it was things came up that I didn't know were there sometimes. Some of the things that I wrote, I kind of felt like were not necessarily cathartic, but it felt like I was getting in touch with a deeper part of myself. Right. Now I'm feeling the need to run because I feel like I've run out of things to say. But I do also have other things to do. I have often wondered what it would be like to do Robitussin with my family. I don't know if it would make things better or worse. I don't know if I could heal my family. I've been in this spot for over 2 years. No. I've been in the bus for almost 2 years. I've been in this spot here for just over a year. No, not even in the bus. I've been out of my father's company for over 2 years. I lived in the van for a little bit, and then in the bus. Where am I at? 43 minutes. Since I've left his company, I've hardly spoken to my family. And they've hardly spoken to me, even though I live right beside my father's business. So, at this point, it feels like the relationship is over. I kind of feel like if they came to me and said, "Hey, we want you back in the family," you know, I tried to dismiss the notification. I ended up with a whole maze of buttons on my screen. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do about that, you know. I never really enjoyed being around them to begin with. It was very similar. My relationship with the family was very similar to the relationship with the girlfriend that I mentioned before, being in the Army. Like I said, I wouldn't want to trip on Robitussin around my family. could be a healing experience, but it could be a very painful experience too. So, could be. I think it might depend partly on if they were with me, you know. So, but because that feeling of not being able to express myself, that didn't start with the girlfriend. Nope. What happened? Why did my screen go white all of a sudden? The changing light. Don't need to put in a light. Is it getting too dark? I'm working on it. Let's see. Yep. Man, am I good. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking now almost as if they were going to watch this. What I would say. What I want to say. In a way, this is the first time I've ever done Robitussin on camera, right? I say in a way because I have made videos before, but they were short, kind of just whatever. Not just me. Never mind. Not just me divulging my what's on my mind. Do I want to keep talking? If I think maybe a good way to do it would be if I had like a stand. I could just set the camera down and go about my business and then just record myself. Yeah, that could be a good way to do it. Because sitting here holding the camera, I feel like now is I'm already in that state of mind where I'm already being pulled in other directions here. Ay me. Oh yeah, I did forget to mention that the feelings of arousal. So one of the things that concerned me about Robitussin was the loss of interest in sex. I didn't just become withdrawn socially; I also lost interest in sex. Very often, I couldn't get aroused, or wouldn't get aroused if I was on Robitussin. My first experience with that was with a girl when I was in college. She's this very cute girl. She was short, kind of petite, you know, but had large breasts. This could be my memory playing tricks on me, but this is how I remember it. But she was very cute and very sweet. She had it wasn't the first time I got drunk, but it was when I first started getting drunk in that time in college. She came to one of the parties, and I was sitting on my friend's bunk bed. This was in the dorm room, and I was in his room. The friend this was the guy that I was attracted to. Who at that time, when she came, I wasn't aware of that then, or I was just starting to become aware of it. But she showed up, and I was sitting on his bunk, the top bunk. I think we were watching something on TV, maybe, or something. I don't remember exactly. We were just drinking and just chatting, but she came and showed up and crawled up on the top bunk with me. I don't know if that was just because she wanted the place to sit or if she just wanted to sit beside me. I don't remember exactly, but not long after she sat down, she started rubbing my back and we started making out. And I don't remember what happened much after that. I think she left, but then she came back the next day with a plate of cookies or brownies or something that she had baked for me. And I'm feeling like, I made a good impression, at the night before, or I don't think it was the night before, but it was, previously on a previous episode. We had been making out on the bunk bed, in my friend's room, and drinking alcohol. But when she came back the second time, we had Robitussin, right? And she came back with this plate of brownies. Almost immediately, we started kissing again. And I was just like, I'm a slobbering kind of monster. Not only that, but I don't feel any interest in this, right? I felt like, for one, she's not on the same page as me, right? The Robitussin is starting to kick in, and I'm kind of like, this is one of those times when I felt like you want to be with someone who's on the same page as you, right? So I'm like laying on top of this girl, just kind of slobbering on her face is what it feels like to me, right? But I'm also at the same time thinking about this guy, the one that I just mentioned, right? And so I'm going through this kind of, I think it might be gay kind of thing. And it was actually that same night when he I don't want to say came on to me. I don't know what to call it. I said something to her, like I said, I'm sorry, I just can't do this. And I got up and I went back to my friend's room, because there were like 3 rooms in the suite that I was in. There was my room, there was a second room, and then there was the third room, which was where this guy was at, my friend. So we had been making out in the second room because the kids who were in that room weren't there, right? Something like that. And so I left her and went down to the third room where my friend was at and started talking to him or something like that. No. Yep. But I started to feel a little bit, something's not right, right? I'm going through this kind of like, I think I might be gay kind of thing here during the Robitussin trip, right? And I'm in this kind of like, I'm starting to feel like I'm coming unraveled kind of thing, and I go to his room, and I don't remember exactly what I said, anything. I don't remember the details, but I remember feeling a little bit like I need to go hide, right? So I went back to my room, the first room. There was nobody in my room until I turned around to leave, and the friend who I just mentioned was standing there in my doorway. And he just looked at me with this big grin on his face, and he said, "Mike." And I thought, he wants to kiss me. And I thought, I want to kiss him, but I can't do it. So I just put my hand up in his face like this, and I walked around him. And then I went back to his room. And I was in this kind of just garbled state of mind, right? Where it seems like your brain is just kind of like excited and fearful and you know, whatever at the same time, right? Because there was a part of me that feels like this is a good thing, but there's also a part of me that feels like this is the end of the world, right? Because what I felt like, well, I'll get to that. Uh, so I went back to my room after like 15 minutes. I don't know how much time had passed. When you're on Robitussin, you can't tell a lot of times how much time has passed. It might seem like 2 hours have passed when only 5 seconds have passed, something like that. But that's an exaggeration. So I go back to my room though, but he's laying in my bed. This guy, right? As if he's waiting for me. So is he coming on to me? Is he sending the signal? Is he? I don't know. All I know is that I wanted to go lay down with him and just stick my arm up his shirt, and I couldn't do it. This is one of those times where my brain was saying, nope, 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 nope. It must be getting too dark. Because what I thought was, if I do this, my family will find out because I won't be able to keep it a secret. And if I tell them, they'll reject me. Right? So maybe it could have been that when I went to college, I could have had the best time of my life having gay sex with a guy who I thought was the coolest guy in the world. But I didn't. I said, no, 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 no. I can't do it because my family will reject me. So here I am, almost 30 years later, because I was 18 at that time, rejected by my family. And now I'm free to have all the great gay sex I want. Is that the end point? I feel like I'm tired of making this video. Yep, I think that's the end.